Welcome back. Week 7 is now complete on the NSIC football schedule, meaning there are just 4 games left for each team in the regular season. Time flies when you're having fun. But before David, Brown, and I break down this past weekend's action, let's show you the highlights from all 7 Saturday games, starting with Bemidji State at Minot State, a battle of the Beavers in this one, and it was all Bemidji State in the first quarter. Halfway through the first frame, quarterback Jordan Hine runs off the speed option. He takes it 42 yards to the house, puts Bemidji State up 7-zip. Bemidji State leading 19-0 after one, but Minot State strikes first in the second. Larry Overstreet, and it's 19-7 Bemidji. This one would be all Bemidji State, though. Early third quarter, Jordan Hine to Christian Lundy, 5-yard touchdown pass. Bemidji State rolls Minot State 42-14. Heading south now to Aberdeen, it was Minnesota Duluth at Northern State. 6 minutes into the game, John Larson rolling out, hits Dominic Bonner, who squeezes in for 6. That's a 7-yard touchdown pass. Bulldogs are up 7-0. A few minutes later, Nathan Folkert punches it in from 1 yard out, 14-0 UMD. And then check out this play. Lineman Dre Greer gets some love as they use him like William the Fridge Perry. 85 Bears reference right there for any Chicago fans. He scores, and he gets pretty hyped about it. All UMD in this one, a 41-0 shutout. Back to North Dakota for our next one. Minnesota Crookston at U-Mary. Pick this up in the third. Garrett Weisinger hits Luke Little in the end zone for the 6-yard touchdown pass. Crookston not throwing in the towel in this one, though. 5 minutes later, Joseph Nava decides to run with it, and that results in a 10-yard touchdown run to get Crookston on the board. But this one would be all U-Mary. The Marauders, Garrett Weisinger hits Luke Little. Again, he takes the ball away from the defender for the score. Marauders win 30-6. Now we take it to Minnesota, MSUM at St. Cloud State. Dragons being tricky here. Wideout Damon Gibson gets the snap directly, punches it in from a yard out, 7-zip MSUM. But St. Cloud would control the rest of the game. Dwayne Lawhorn finds Derek Kummerow. That's a 4-yard touchdown pass. And then Lawhorn would air it out to a different target later. Early third quarter, John Pass catches the pass, goes 16 yards with it, and it's 14-7 SCSU. 7 points will be all Minnesota Crookston would be in this one, but it belongs to the Huskies. They win 31-7. Our next one, Winona State at Concordia St. Paul. But beginning of the second quarter, Javian Roebuck takes it in from 5 yards to get Winona State on the board, 7-3. But the running back can catch too. End of the third quarter, Roebuck hauls in the screen pass from Darren Beacon, and he takes it 16 yards to the house, 14-3 Winona State. They'd score 14 more in the fourth quarter and take home the victory 28-10, moving to 7-0 on the year. And another undefeated team, Minnesota State at Upper Iowa. Let's start in the second quarter. Mavs up 20-0. Then this, J.D. Ikawa with time launches the ball to the wide open Parker Glaudemans. He takes it home 65 yards for the touchdown. Minnesota State up 27-0. Later second quarter, handoff to Justin Termina. He gets through traffic. He's gone. 58 yards for the touchdown. 36-0 Mavs, and they get the 45-point win, 52-7. Our final game takes us right back to Sioux Falls, SMSU at Augustana for Viking days. Matt Wagner makes a great read and wins the jump ball for this interception. A little shifty moves there, and he's in for 6. 16-0 at this point for the Vikings on their homecoming. Now just under 7 minutes left in the fourth. Ryan Rubley hits Nathan Merriman in the corner of the end zone to give Augie a 23-8 lead. They win their homecoming in dominant fashion, 30-8. So we're 7 weeks in already.
A lot of games.
Lots of games, but lots of exciting action, a few blowouts, still 2 undefeated teams. But looking at all these wins from this past weekend, which do you think was the most impressive?
Honestly, it's Minnesota State over Upper Iowa. And the 52-7 final isn't even the most eye-catching stat, even though it was the second biggest victory by a road team in the conference this season. It was how the Mavericks did it. MSU had 3 running backs with over 80 yards, 2 over 100 yards, and get this, a 359-14 advantage on the ground overall. 359-14. Total yards was 588-150, nearly quadruple that of Upper Iowa. And the Peacocks aren't a bad team. They were 4-2 coming in, a lot of really good offensive playmakers. The utter domination in all facets over a team that's still above 500 is what made that special for MSU. We'll get to see how special they really are on Thursday Night Football this week at Southwest Minnesota State, but there's a reason they're now the number 4 team in all of Division II. Performances like that, you expect them to win that road game. That's what good teams do, is they win on the road, but you don't expect them to dominate like that in such, utter dominating fashion. So a 52-7 final on the road against the first team who they played this year that came into the game with an above 500 record. The Mavericks are rolling right now.
Well, and just to have that balance, I was looking at the carries for the guys that went over 80 yards, 14 for Termina, 11 for Gunn, 16 for Franklin. It's like you can't just stop one guy because they have 2 other options, which is pretty much unheard of.
Absolutely.
Very cool. Staying on that player-specific vibe, MVP of Week 7, what do you think?
Well, you mentioned the 3-headed running back tandem at MSU, and I'm going to cheat a little bit and not give just a co-MVP, but a tri-MVP to a different trio of running backs. Jason Towns, Winston Maxwell, and Colton Miles from Sioux Falls. Those 3 running backs on a short week in place of the injured Max Mickey picked up the slack for the Cougars. Mickey hurt his foot just a few days before the Winona State game 2 weeks ago. The Cougars only had 65 yards rushing in that game, seemed uncharacteristically out of sorts in that loss. So what happens on a short week? The backs pick it up with balance. Towns, 13 carries, 60 yards. Maxwell, 11 carries, 76 yards. Miles, 15 carries, 52 yards. They controlled the game and the clock. USF had the ball for more than 35 minutes. I talked with some players and coaches leading up to that game, and they were one of the few teams actually excited for a short week. They were so upset about that Winona State loss. They honestly wanted nothing more than to get back out on the field on Sunday after the game on Saturday. The offensive line was great. The running backs produced, and that, for the moment, provides some relief so they can wait for Max Mickey to return. The coaches and players all seem confident that Max Mickey will return at some point this season. This is his senior season. Optimistically, they're hoping for the key to the city game on October 28th against Augustana. We would selfishly like that because we have it on Midco Sports Network, but
exactly.
They're aiming for at least the last 2 weeks, if not the final week, and maybe getting him ready and healthy enough for a playoff run.
Well, we know how dominant he is, and then add in 3 other guys. We just talked about Minnesota State having a balanced attack. Now you have 4 people that can
Absolutely.
run it.
They did a great job picking things up against Wayne State.
Oh, exactly. So talking about a team on the rise, who do you think would that be?
Well, they're not necessarily on the rise because people knew about them beforehand, but it's Minnesota Duluth. They're winning this weekend in Aberdeen, a 41-0 shutout of Northern State. Proved that they're back to the UMD we've been used to seeing over all these years. 4th straight win, and the defense stepping up and the offense continuing the churn despite the quarterback rotation. Here's how it's gone since the beginning of the season. Mike Grabarczyk, named the starter in training camp, lost for the season after 2 games with an upper body injury. John Larson, the backup, comes in during week 2. He gets hurt during that game. The 3rd string, Ben Everhart, takes control the following 3 games. Then he got hurt last week against MSU Moorhead, and the Bulldogs have gone back to John Larson, their original backup, who plays game manager. He lets the running backs run all over Northern State, and UMD comes away with that 41-0 win. They've been able to overcome these injuries and keep winning. If the defense keeps playing like it has the past few weeks, they've only allowed 14 points in the last 2 games combined, then to me it doesn't matter who's going to be quarterbacking that offense. UMD is a proud NSIC team that's used to winning. When they started 1-2, a lot of people, myself included, were very surprised. They lost those 2 games at home. They lost in the Sioux Falls and Minnesota State, 2 very good teams, but you just don't expect UMD to lose at home. They've won 4 straight since falling to 1-2, and they appear to be back on track in every facet.
Offense wins games.
Defense
wins championships. I love it.
I'm sure
Amy
Williams drilled that into you.
Oh, she would love it. She
basketball.
saw that. Exactly. Well, looking ahead, what's the game of the week for this week?
Well, it's a weird week because there's only one game where both teams have a record above 500, and that's 4-3 Wayne State at 7-0 Winona State. For the Wildcats, this is a tough game, but coming off a Thursday night loss, they will have had an extra couple of days to prepare for Winona State. The offense still needs to find a rhythm again. Zach Osborne came back at quarterback. He still has a lingering foot injury. Can he put the Wildcats in a position to where their playmaking receivers and running back Rashad Trimble can test that Winona State defense? On the other side, for the Warriors, it's all about not looking ahead, and I cannot stress that enough. Depending on the results this weekend, next weekend on October 28th, could be a matchup of 8-0 Minnesota State and 8-0 Winona State. That's huge, but the Warriors have business to take care of at home, and it's on homecoming. Now, they only won 28-10 at Concordia St. Paul last week. Not that you discredit a win at any point, but Concordia St. Paul's at the bottom of the South Division, and Winona State started that game slow. It was only a 7-3 game at halftime. They were able to pick things up in the second half and pull away for a victory, but they can't have that slow start against a better offensive team in Wayne State. So for Winona State, being ready to play right away will go a long way, not for just for this game, but what could potentially be an absolutely huge matchup next week. Winona State has all the tools necessary on every side of the ball to get the job done against Wayne State. It's just a matter of if they're going to find them at the beginning of the game or later in the third and fourth quarter, and if so, is it going to be too late for them to find that rhythm and momentum offensively and defensively?
I am not giving up on Wayne State. I feel like they're just going to.
They still have a good offense. They just need to find a rhythm a little bit, just because they've had injuries, and USF, their defense shut down Trimble last week. But I think Wayne State is a sneaky good team in the NSIC South. Sneaky good.
Lots to look forward to. Thank you so much, David.
Absolutely.
When we come back, it's time for FCS football coach talk with Bob Nielsen from USD. The Coyotes recently went 6-0 to start 2017. Stay tuned.
Midco Sports Tonight, presented by Avera Orthopedics.